That's right. We have news from across the border. And tonight, Bobi Wine remains a man under siege with his wife. The two are unable to leave their Magere home, which remains surrounded by police and the military. One man who knows that scenario all too well is former presidential candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye, who vied for the presidency 4 times and endured near similar treatment at the hands of the state. Our very own Wahiga Maura spoke to him at his Kasangati home. And here is that exclusive one-on-one. Take a look.
Dr. Besigye, thank you so much for speaking with Citizen TV. I want you to help set the record straight. Did you boycott this election?
Not at all, because my party, which is Forum for Democratic Change, is in the election. I did not become its candidate in this particular election because of some reasons I discussed with them and which they agreed with me about. Since 2011, I've been saying that my role in elections will change, because I got to the firm conclusion after the 2011 elections that elections in and of themselves will not cause the change that we need. That we need to build different competencies within the Ugandan society to be able to assert their will.
Honorable Besigye, would it not have made more sense for the opposition to unite and field a joint candidate, possibly with you as the presidential candidate and Bobi Wine supporting you on that?
But it's never easy to have a pre-election coalition, especially when there is no unanimity in the definition of the problem. Then they see other groups as competitors, as competitors for the same office. Now that makes it difficult to have one sort of movement against the government.
Any advice to Bobi Wine? He now finds himself under house arrest. After most of the other elections, you also are under house arrest. He has some decisions he needs to make. What advice would you give him?
Well, I'm afraid I wouldn't have much advice, because if I had, I would have used it myself when I was in a similar situation. But I think the advice I would give is to his supporters, more than to him, to appreciate that the challenge we have in this country is huge and cannot be sorted by any one person, one leader, one formation, one group. That we all, as citizens desirous of change, we all need to rally and continue the struggle.
Dr. Besigye, the country hasn't had internet access for the last 4 days. In your view, in terms of losses, what does that look like?
Huge, 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 very huge. Not just to the economy, but to many, many aspects of life. The internet now plays a central role in nearly every aspect of life. You know, if you go to a doctor, and I am a doctor, quite often I will check the internet, what is the latest in this situation, what are the complications bound to, you know, because I don't have to keep all this and I would not know what has happened in the US, so it's very, very pervasive, the kind of influence. So the losses are huge.
Dr. Besigye, power is a strange thing. Everybody's looking for it. How sure are we that if you had gotten into power those many years ago, you wouldn't be doing the same things you're accusing His Excellency the President of?
I can tell you that I would be different. But the question is, how would anybody believe what I say? And I'm telling you that it's not possible. Certainly, I cannot believe what anybody says in politics, that's what they will do. And that is why my energy in politics is not so much to become a leader, but to have an empowered population to check a leader. The guarantor for good governance is the population, not the leader. Leaders will always say there are all kinds of, and also I am, experienced enough to know that human nature is inherently selfish. And therefore, to deliver public goods and deliver them equitably, you need pressures or demands that cause you to do that. That it's not your goodness that causes you to deliver to the public. No, it shouldn't be.
You've actually vied at least 4 times now, but you've also gone through quite a struggle. You've been arrested, you've been detained, and so forth. Would you be able to know how many times that's actually happened to you?
No, frankly, I lost. It's simply not possible to keep count of the numbers of times I've been charged, the numbers of times I've been arrested, the numbers of times I've appeared in court. They are just countless. Just last week, I was informed of a case that had been dismissed in Mbarara, a southwestern city now, turned into a city recently, where I had been going to court for about 3 years. I now read that the case had been dismissed. I had forgotten about that particular case. On that was 2006. I was charged on 4 charges, all capital. I was charged of terrorism, of treason, of rape, and of illegal possession of guns, all at a go. And I was charged in the military court and in the civilian court at the same time. And I was, of course, nominated from prison that time, because that I was arrested just before nominations. I was nominated from prison and stayed in prison until January, when I got bail. Now, when I got bail, then the trial began of the rape. And throughout the campaigns, I was in the court in the morning being tried for rape, in the afternoon campaigning. And the judgment was never given until after the elections. So people went to vote not knowing whether I am going to be convicted of rape.
In your view, Dr. Besigye, how bad will it be if you never became president?
In fact, it's not an aspiration that I aspire to become a president. No, I aspire to live in a free, democratic country. And my political engagement is about just that.
Let's now cross the borders and head to Kenya, where a handshake that happened 3 years ago has fundamentally changed the politics that happens there. Some say it was for the good of the country. Others have a contrary opinion. What view do you hold on that model of the handshake?
Well, frankly, I don't know how Kenya is faring under that arrangement. I hesitate to make judgments of situations that I am not intimately familiar with. Kenya's history is fundamentally different from ours. You have never had military rule in Kenya. Yes, you've had strongman leadership that has now given way to some form of struggling democratic dispensation. What I know for sure is that the sustainable trajectory must depend on competencies of the population, not on manipulations of the leaders. Leaders can establish understanding between them against the people, or in ways that don't necessarily benefit the people. So I'll be keenly observing how the election after the handshake plays out, and whether people indeed have the initiative and the ability to direct what happens during and after the next election.
By people, you mean the voters?
The voter, yes, the population. And that they can do so in freedom, and that the outcome is respected, and that it's transparent, and so on and so forth. That's what would be more interesting for me. But what appears, at least for the people a bit removed from the situation like us here in Uganda, is that I think the handshake helped to calm down very tense situations that could have been disastrous for the country, and life continued and business has continued, which helps the population also. But I can't say anything beyond that, because I don't know how that has translated into the political empowerment of the population to take charge of the situation in the country going forward. I asked some of my friends in Kenya shortly after the handshake, not very shortly, and some of whom were very instrumental in both sides. And they told me that the only people who know what that handshake really is about are the two who shook their and that sounded very strange to me. That you have senior people who it was also a good indicator of the trust in their leaders. Say, the leaders know what they mean, but it must be good. In my case, I am not that trusting. I would rather that we shake hands over very clear, and this is why I say, our situations are different.
Okay.
For a handshake here to be of meaning, even the handshake should be negotiated, so that you shake a hand on account of a concrete agreement of what is going to happen going forwards, what fundamental reforms are necessary for the country. Once you agree on the fundamental reforms, shake hands and implement those reforms. Then that is a wonderful thing for the country.
Great insights by Wahiga.
Very interesting insights from Bessie J.
Well done.
Yep.
Well done. Speaking of interesting, Michael Kingi's in the house.